It's a brand new week here on Winning Begins at Home, and I'm so thankful that you have joined us for content this week. I'm excited. We're going to be talking about marriage this week. It is my anniversary week. Laura and I will have been married 38 years. I need to know which day or I'm going to get in trouble. I think it's Thursday, or maybe Friday. I don't know. I know it's the 20th. So it's coming up in just a few days. We're excited. We're going to maybe get a chance to get away a little bit this week. It'll be fun. But I want to drop some content because I think this marriage thing is a big deal. And here's what I know. If you're married, let's start there. If you're married and it's working, there's nothing better. And if you're married and, let me just say, if you're married, there's going to be times where it's not working. And there's nothing harder than a marriage that's not, it's not doing what it's designed to do. And so I personally believe that God's the one who had the idea of marriage. That's what it says in the Bible, that, he's the one who thought this up. And so it's really good. I love that he said it's not good for the man to be alone way back in the Garden of Eden. And so we have this opportunity to experience families because of it. And it's just is a really great plan if it works, like I said. But if it doesn't work, it's hard. So this week, maybe some things we talk about will make your marriage a little better. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping I'll listen to some of the stuff I'm talking about this week. I'm gonna talk to my wife some this week, and I'm hoping our marriage can be better. We're a couple years away from 40 here, and which gives me hope. I was at an event. I've told this story before, but I was at an event a few months back and speaking, and one of the ladies there who introduced me talked about how we had been married almost, not me and the lady, but me and Laura had been married almost 40 years. And so this girl comes up to me at the break and says, "Hey, I got something to tell you about your marriage." And I'm thinking that's an interesting comment because we're talking leadership stuff. We're doing all kind of training that day on engagement and execution, which was fun. But she said, "I got something to tell you about your marriage." And I'm like, "Okay, what's that?" And she said, "My grandpa and my grandma were married for, I think 65, 66 years, whatever it was, before her grandmother had passed away." And she said that her grandpa had told her that only the first 40 years are hard. Everything after that was just amazing. And so I'm excited, Laura. We're getting close. We're only a couple of years away from it maybe being easy the rest of the way. I'm not sure that's true, but I guess we can all have hope. So let me say a couple of things here to start with. I think first of all, I'd start by saying if you're not married and you're planning on being married, I want to encourage you to find the right person. Hopefully, a couple of things I'll talk about today might be helpful in that. But I'd just say the dumbest thing in the world you can do is marry the wrong person. You don't do it. I mean, it's just not what you want to do. And so how do you decide who to marry? And then once you get married, like, how do you make it work? And so I can tell you what's worked for us and what actually has worked even when things aren't working, when things are not good and they're hard. These things I'm going to say today are the things that really have held us together. And I would call them the foundation for any great relationship. And so what is that foundation? Well, the truth is you and your spouse will have the opportunity to decide what you want to build your family on, what you want your foundation to be. Some of those principles we talk about in Winning Begins at Home. I'm plugging the book again this week. If you don't have a copy, I hope you'll grab a copy of Winning Begins at Home. It might serve you well to help you create that blueprint. But if you have a blueprint, it's really kind of worthless if you don't have the right foundation. So what is the foundation for a great marriage? And for us, all I can tell you that what's worked for us has been our commitment to common values. I think that's where I would start. If I was telling anybody what is going to make a home work, it's having the same shared values. And for us, those values have been maybe different than they would be for you. But for us, early on, before we got married, we talked about these values. Are these the things that you believe? Are these the things that I believe? Is this what you want? And, I mean, you can have all kind of desires about, how many kids you're going to have in your little house and white picket fence and all that stuff. That stuff's great. You probably do need to know if you want to be parents or not, but beyond where you live and all that, who your friends are going to be and some of those kind of things, I think your values are going to be huge. And so for us, one of the values that we've talked about to start with, really our first value, is our faith. Both of us are like-minded in our faith, and those values that are taught in the Bible, we thought were going to be foundational for us. They've guided us when we've wanted to get off the path. They've continually pulled us back to the right way of thinking. And I don't know about you, but I have a tendency to, if I'm not careful, I can get outside the lines in the way I'm thinking. My motives can not be great, and all kind of stuff. We can, all of us, we're just, truthfully, we're all sort of a mess from time to time. And so we love having the Bible to pull us back. And why I say the Bible is because it just reminds us of some great stuff. I could give you dozens of things that it says, but one of the things, I'll give you one example. It says in the Bible to not let the sun go down on your anger. And so what does that mean? It means, really, for us, we interpreted that, let's don't go to bed mad at each other. Now, truthfully, there have been some nights where we've not really been able to go to bed very early because we've had to work some stuff out and have those conversations. But I think there's so much wisdom in knowing that when you go to bed at night, that you got a clear conscience and a clear slate with the person that you're actually hopefully going to sleep with. And if that's the case, if you're not mad at each other at the end of the day, it's sort of hard to be mad at each other 2 days in a row if you're never in the day mad at each other. And so, again, you're probably going to have some late night conversations from time to time, but I think it's powerful to have a value that you can kind of live by. And so we've tried to do that. Another thing that we said early on is that we're going to not use what we call the D word. What's the D word? It's divorce. I mean, it's they say about half marriages end in divorce. We just decided early on, no matter what, that's not going to be an option for us. We're going to really work hard to make this commitment, and honestly, it ends up being about sacrifice when it's all said and done, if you think about it. And I would say, when I think about our marriages and the value of sacrifice, I talked about this a little bit last week for dads, but this idea of sacrificing for somebody else, if you really want to learn how to do that, just get married. It really is going to give you an opportunity. I've said for decades, it's the greatest classroom for sacrifice on the planet. It really is. And maybe the master's degree in that is to have a kid. Go back and listen to last week if you're a dad. Hopefully some of those tips for dads that we shared last week, Father's Day week, would be helpful. But so let's go back. These shared values, what are they for you? For us, it was our faith. It was also our family. We thought we're gonna value the same things as a family. But we both wanted to be parents. We knew that going in. We talked about that. We talked about what kind of family we wanted to have, and yet those are there's vision in that, yes, but the truth is, once you have a kid, everything's just kind of out of control. You don't, and I don't mean the kids are out of control. It's just like everything's beyond your control. You don't make, we don't make kids. God makes kids. I mean, it's like, there's stuff going on here that we're beyond our control, and we don't get to decide how many kids and all. I mean, we think we're in control, but really, we're not the authors of life. And so I want to just, when I go back and I think about our values and our faith and our family, those were a couple of the values that we had. Another one, and I'll just mention this one, but it's really helped us a lot. You hear all the time couples fight about their finances, and for us, financially, we've been pretty much on the same page for almost 40 years now. And we had like-minded values when it came to our finances. And so those 3 F's, really, faith and family and finances, are just 3 examples of our values being what I would call congruent. They fit together. We're so different. Laura's one way, and I'm totally opposite in so many ways. And yet together, because of our values, our faith, our family, our finances, I mean, we've got a list of other things that we would value. But the point is not what do we value. The point is, what do you value? If you're going to have a great marriage, I think it's going to start with your values. If you can have shared values, you can make sure you're on the same page. That's going to come from talking to each other and from communication. And we're going we're going to dive into that a little bit tomorrow. I hope you'll join us for that. If you know somebody who's married or getting married or thinking about getting married, especially, you might want to share this with them. Maybe you can have a conversation about some of the stuff that I talked about today, and make sure that they're thinking clearly about what they need to be thinking about if they're going to enter this, what I believe is the best relationship you're going to have on earth. And so I just want to encourage you in your marriage today. If you're married, don't give up, don't lose heart. There's going to be a lot of hard days, but I believe it's worth it if we'll fight for it. So I want to encourage you to continue to do that. Join us again tomorrow. Remember, winning begins at home.